The Rosalind Franklin Martian rover delayed until 2022. And it's not just because of coronavirus. Dr. Brad Tucker and I are going in-depth on this Talkin' Science Story of the Week.
Across Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts and YouTube, this is Talking Science with Dr. Brad Tucker and Matt Miller.
All right, well, our last story of the week, the ExoMars Rosalind Franklin rover has been delayed to 2022 for launch until 2022, but coronavirus isn't just the only reason.
No, that's right. So, coronavirus actually does come into play. But look, we talked about, Perseverance being named last week, and the Rosalind Franklin rover was getting slightly behind. They did the testing and assembling late last year, as we talked about. They just ran into delays and deadlines. And this was doing the proper testing and assembly and all that little stuff that you need to make sure works before you send a rover 450 million kilometers away.
The small details.
And it was getting to the crunch time, and they quickly realized that they were not going to make it. And then on top of everything, there is now travel restrictions in Europe, so you can't travel around to go and do the final testing. So coronavirus here wasn't the problem. It was the icing on the catastrophic cake.
And the reason for 2022 is that the launch has to coincide with favourable conditions in the orbits around the sun of Earth and Mars.
That's right. So the same reason everyone is looking at this mid-July window for the NASA rover and the UAE probe to Mars and other groups was because, you have these windows every 2-ish years of when Earth and Mars work out. So the journey is only 6 to 7 months, because leaving in July, you still land in February. So even if they try and say, all right, well, we're going to be 5 months behind, launching in December, it's just not feasible because you're essentially chasing Mars and you don't gain anything. And in fact, you have a lot more problems that can happen, especially as you have to go on the other side of the sun and lose communication with the craft. So 2022 is just saying this is the next launch window, which, while disappointing for everyone, gives them at least more time, right? And this isn't the first delay, though, we should say, with the Rosalind Franklin rover.
It is an incredible little bit of history with this rover, originally approved by European nations back in 2005. NASA came on board as a joint partner before they dropped out. Launch in 2013 was pushed to 2016, 2018. It's going to get up eventually, but and we've talked about this before with a couple of telescopes. I think it was that it's better to wait and do it right than rush it out and have it crash and burn up in the atmosphere.
Yeah, because you don't get it back and you've just sunk billions of dollars. And to be fair, yes, there's a lot of been changes, but it's also grown. It's not like they're trying to do that same rover in 2005. They started in 2005 and then they realized curiosity had gone up in that time. All right, well, we can change the instruments. And then that's why NASA got interested to really look for signs of life, biological things, but then realized, well, NASA wants to build their own. And then Russia joined on. So it was the Russian-European rover. And then so it just took time. So it's going to be a great thing when it's launched. It's going to be very successful. And it is the correct decision. And it's just unfortunate, the timing. In fact, I would say it's almost good of coronavirus, right? You can imagine that they would still be rushing to get the timeline down, right? And the fact that they're physically, legally restricted from working on it, maybe that is a blessing in disguise.
What I do wonder, being a bit of a computer person myself, Brad, do they upgrade the operating system on these things as the years go by and the delays extend?
So it depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I think it depends on the instruments and that, because that's right, because you don't want just 20-year-old hardware going up, which is always the problem. They do some technical upgrades for some things, but every time you swap out something, it has to be retested. So I think it's the right balance between the mechanical changes and the electronic and the computational changes about what needs to happen. I can imagine there will be very few changes for the 2022 launch. It'll just take more of their time to do the proper testing and get it ready, and then get it to the launch pad and have it sit there.
And one country that we don't really sort of think of with space programs, but they have a strong involvement in this ExoMars program, is the UK. Rosalind Franklin is quite important to the British.
That's right. They've been the driving force behind a lot of the development of the rover, and this was kind of their main project that they've driven as part of the European Space Agency and most of it. So, as he said, it's yes, we kind of lump in these groups together, and we don't always think of the UK, but this is a really UK Russian led rover, which is quite interesting. In addition to the Chinese rover that hopefully will be launched, and the United Arab Emirates probe that will be launched to Mars in that July window coming up.
It is very cool, and we've said it before on the show as well, that space and science really knows no country borders. Everyone gets together for the benefit of scientific knowledge.
That's right. There is no restriction on here except if you're coronavirus.